Thanks for coming. I just have a brief little intro about Dharma Gates, and then I'll hand it over to Ali. So I helped found this little organization in 2019, so we're quite young. We're an organization dedicated to opening pathways into deep meditation practice for young people. So we do that with these Zoom events, but we also have in-person events and retreats and an advising service. So if you're interested in working with one of us one-on-one to learn more about deep meditation or how you might get involved, we have a lot of different ways. So this is one of the things we're doing this fall. It's been really great. All of our events, these events are designed to be a gateway into to equip you to take these practices farther. So if you have any questions about like, this was really interesting, who else is doing this, or how could I get involved with this? We want to be able to answer those questions. So you're welcome to follow up with us after the event or stay after. Yeah, so this is the last event for this series, but we have one more event confirmed for January, and we'll have stuff ongoing. So if you're all on our newsletter now, that's how you'll find out about new things. There'll be Zoom events going through the spring, and then we're already looking at in-person stuff for summer of 2021, maybe even late spring, because of this vaccine. Is pretty cool. So all of our events are spread we promote mostly through word of mouth. So I encourage you to share, to let your friends know if you enjoy any of your experiences. Just invite a friend to the next session. It's really, really helpful for us. And yeah, you guys have all found your way to our website. This session, we've been starting to record the sessions. I think it would be great to start sharing them. If you have any issues with recording, if you don't want to be featured in a recording, just message me sometime during the session. I will make sure you're edited out. If you have questions during the Q&A and you don't want to be featured, just message me the question and I can ask Hoji. That way it'll be easier to edit you out. And so with that, we're very excited to have Ali Tataryn, or Hoji is her Buddhist name, with us today. I met Ali last winter. She was helping to facilitate a week-long circling intensive at the Monastic Academy. And the event just completely blew me away and is part of the reason that I live here now. So at Dharma Gates, we're very interested in this idea of applying contemplative tools to relationships and to interpersonal practice. I think I consider that to be the gateway to action, to actually changing things. How do you bring meditation practice into the world? It has to be through relationships. And so Ali has done a lot of work in this area, both with circling and with WeSpace and with a very interesting form of lineage of Zen practice and she's done everything. So I'm very excited to have her just to talk about whatever she talks about. And yeah, thanks for coming, and I'll hand it over to you for now. There's a lot more people coming in now.
I'll just confirm, are we going for, are we going for 60 minutes or 90 minutes?
The official end is 3:30. So you can just hand it back to me sometime 3:25 or 3:27, something like that.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I have an immense amount of admiration for you, Aaron, the work that you're doing, the way you show up in the world. It's and I say that because it's good to have Dharma comrades for me in my life. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean it's both beautiful and humbling to have friends and seekers such as yourselves, such as myself, there to show up and love and support and sometimes kick your ass in all the good ways. I was reviewing what I'd be talking about today. A few things came up for me that I wanted to just mention before we dive into it. So it says, in this session, Ali will address the role of contemplative practice in transcending and transforming greed, anger, and ignorance, leading to broader social change. When is it time to sit on the cushion? When is it time to take action? How can every action and thought be a step closer to our awakening rather than an example of our own foolishness? How can the realization of our own foolishness be our guide to becoming unbreakable in our view? And I thought, damn, I would show up to that. Okay. And one thing that I want to preface before I kind of dive in here is that I will dare say that many of you present, if not all of you, all of us, you're already way, way, way more doing this than you realize. More than perhaps the teachers you've given reverence realize. More than the books or scriptures that are telling you, like, this is how humans are, this is how we are, we're all jerks, we're all obsessed with sensual pleasure, we're all doing this, we're all doing that. This can create these really fascinating barriers where you start becoming convinced that you're one of the problems, even though for whatever reason, since you were like a young kid, you have been caring deeply about other people. Who has been caring deeply about other people since they were a kid and has been very sensitive to other people? And it might not be everyone here, but yeah. I have to emphasize this. Some people aren't. Some people actually haven't been attuned to the impact that their actions have on others and the heartbreak that that has. Some people have actually not been attuned to the terror and the destruction that takes place on this planet. Okay. So it feels really important for me to pass this on to you guys because I had to figure out a lot of things. And one of which was, oh, I kind of already get a lot of this stuff. I was sort of raised into it. Okay. So what I'm ultimately saying is Buddhist path, no Buddhist path. You and many other people on this planet have felt love and compassion towards others, and you have somehow strived to multiply that love and compassion in yourself and in your actions so that others can be that way too. So, good job. Who here considers themselves a practitioner right now or has meditation practice? Okay. So I'm going to speak really directly from my view and my experience and just how I've parsed things. And I want you to just recognize that. Okay? I'm speaking from my little point of construction and karma and unfolding and undoing. We strive to practice. We show up and we do practice. We commit to practicing because we believe someone has convinced us, or for whatever reason, we've just always dreamed of living in a monastery, being a nun. Because somehow we are sure that we need to. There's the realization, and then there's all the pursuits and paths to get you to that realization. Realization aside, all of these paths, such as Zen, get up early, follow the bell, keep showing up. Doesn't matter if you're tired. Go, 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 go. Sit, sit, sit. That is not only training you towards the possibility of insight. It's also just training you because you need discipline, people. You need to get off your ass and do something for someone else outside of your own personal desires and needs and arisings and passings away. So you go subject yourself to someone else's tyranny, well-intended, and you take it. And you can leave that monastery or that sesshin or that army camp or that whatever without any insight. And I'm telling you, you've done yourself and everyone else on this planet a favor. Okay. Some of us we really, really, really like that form of strictness. And you need to go get it out of your system so you can actually start to relax and have a practice. Go to a Tibetan space or go to Hawaii or something. Okay, like chill out. And everything that I just said here is so beautiful. Right? It's like, oh yeah. I had this idea in my head that if I just become stronger and fiercer and a martial artist and someone who I can get, punched in the stomach 25,000 times and I don't move, for whatever reason, that's the associated story in your mind of what a really enlightened person is. Okay? We all have these. Oh, I'm going to go become a shaman. Because there's something about standing there with my hair blowing in the wind and a staff in my hand and the sunset in the background that we know is more attuned to my true nature than whatever place I was born into with whatever school and whatever family. Namgyal Rinpoche, one of the teachers in the Tibetan lineage that I spent a lot of time practicing through. So I hear, because I've only been students of his students. He says, sometimes you just got to go play out your karma. Just go live your life. I didn't play out my karma. I desperately wanted to move to a monastery since I was like 19 years old. I basically lived in misery for 10 years because every day that I lived, I wasn't in a monastery. I eventually worked through it. Life has happened. I can't really live in a monastery now. But what becomes important is following those dreams or ideations or images of truth serves you. Because it removes the angst. It forces you to get into alignment with yourself. And actually open up to receive the beauty and the glitter of this reality. And in pursuing that image of yourself, you can't actually pursue the image until you've noticed it. Okay? But in pursuing that image of yourself, something in you relaxes. And then you can actually start to sit and meditate. Because meditation, sitting, really examining the nature of our mind or our construction or our unfolding is a very beautiful contemplative practice. I'm going to say that contemplative isn't thinking. Contemplative is thinking with your body, your emotions, and your mind. And allowing the digestion to thoroughly take place. From there, the thoughts will start to disappear. You'll have no thought. Before you have no thought, you'll experience, there's space between the thoughts. What's that? What's that little portal? Now, someone remind me to come back to this because pursuing that image in your mind is your path. It is your Dharma. Okay. And you can probably do some meditation alongside. So it's not like you have to go do one and then go do the other, but I don't want to get into that right now. So now we have two aspects of our sitting practice that I've just brought to our attention. We have the contemplative, something in me is relaxed so that I can actually sit. And then we have the neurosis. I'm a good meditator. I'm going to be a good meditator. Okay. And both of those things are going to happen simultaneously and beside each other. Okay. My hope for you is you can learn to joyously notice your neurosis around practice and allow that to be part of your contemplation. There's a lot of different traditions giving you a different order of how to meditate, what to meditate on, what to focus on. It can get confusing. We're in a day and age where everyone's giving you a different option and a different view. And now I'm someone just adding to your mess. That's for you to sort out. So I'll just say, but in the end, okay, there's going to be a lot of types of practices in between, like calming the body, calming the mind, learning to be at peace, all of these things. But what you want to do is you want to get to know the nature of your own mind. Okay. So I'm going to stop. So I'm going to make an assertion here. Okay. If you haven't noticed, I just really emphasized the importance of how great you are and loving yourself. Yes? Yes. Who's kind of like, yeah, actually, I'm nuts, but I'm amazing? Who's kind of getting that? Good. Good. Erin, you just might be the least nuts person I've ever met. My experience is that we can get really, really, really convinced about ourselves and our motivations and our drives to save the world. And as practitioners, we got to be a little bit careful about that. When I, a bodhisattva of no rank, look through awakened eyes at the real form of this universe, all that appears is the never-ending, never-failing, unfolding manifestation of this mysterious truth. Collisions happen. It is the way it is. You have to really get that, in my opinion. My father saw that my sister was walking across the road when she was like 5, about to get hit by a car. My dad runs in, grabs her, so she's not hit. My sister, years later, so angry and devastated at my father for inflicting this trauma upon her. Do you see what I just pointed out there? My dad made sure my sister didn't get hit by a car. And the intensity of that experience on my sister's body and disorientation of not knowing what was going on created trauma in her that she had to work out of her system as she got older. His literally saving of her life to her was one of her first traumatizing events that she was upset with him for. And that's an example of life is messy. Okay. We start learning all of these authenticity practices and communication practices, okay? And we start learning how to speak our truth. And then you have two people speaking their truths, and then that truth hurts someone else's truth. And now you have to sit in the dilemma and the agony of you just hurt somebody, but you had to grow out of not being able to speak up before. Like, difficulty happens. You learning how to step into your power and your wisdom and your authenticity is going to somehow hurt someone else. And you have to actually feel that pain, that dilemma. And it aches. So part of what we're doing when we're sitting in meditation practice, whether it's standing or walking or sitting, is we are, one, creating discipline, two, perhaps creating really beautiful jhanic healing states in the body over time, which is very, very good for you. But three, what we're really doing is we're learning to watch our mind and how it engages with the world around us without opinion. Just observe. You can say, can you listen to the sound of a bell without an opinion? Two things happen. You either recognize, yes, I can listen to the sound of a bell without an opinion, or you notice the arising and passing away of an opinion. Can you listen to someone speaking without an opinion? You either go, yes, I can. Or because you're a meditator, because you're watching, because you're bothering to give a damn, you notice the arising and passing away of an opinion about what someone said. And the more time you spend, pardon my language, by the way, the more time you spend watching, the more space there is for you to start to recognize sensation, perception, opinion, associations, history, where these things come from. And as you start to notice these very subtle little chains of events, you start to become less bound by them. Everyone's with me so far? Yeah. And so this is where we get to be comrades, practitioners together, Sangha. Because now we get to rest in this I'm going to say spacious intention with one another while I'm noticing my arisings, interacting with your arisings, and how I get pulled in. And then I just perpetuated yours. And now that's a mess. But because I'm actually sitting down and practicing regularly, not just theorizing about ideas of Dharma, because I'm actually sitting and doing my practice, getting up and practicing. Okay? I am building the capacity for spaciousness. And I'm not just ending up in thought loops and ideas and opinions about me and you. What I'm pointing to there is keep sitting. Keep sitting. Because we can really get convinced that all of our conflict resolution tactics and all of our, authenticity training and all of our whatever is the path. Oh God. Sitting in meditation will allow you to start to witness greed, anger, and ignorance, and all of your compulsions towards them. It will help you identify thought structures and intellect, emotion and sensation, the deconstruction of all of those things into its base elements. Okay, you start to really be able to understand this is a narrative that I have. This is a resistance that I have. The animal in me is moving towards. In a very particular way. The animal in me is posturing. I will assert that you want to be able to see all of this stuff without judgment. And that will create a larger capacity for you to see it in others without judgment, which creates more space for compassionate action. And if we're not doing our work all the time, not in like an abusive way, but if we don't keep coming back to check ourselves, we can end up kind of part of the problem. If you maintain meditative awareness at all times, notice when you're not maintaining it. You will start to notice, ooh, look, mania arises. Ooh, look, self-aggrandization arises. Ooh, look, what I'm doing is better than what they're doing. Our system is better than yours. Can't you? Oh, look, I'm doing that again. Oh, look. Oh, look. Oh, look, I'm seducing again. Oh, look, I'm ignoring again. Oh, look, I'm cutting off again. Oh, look, something in me knows how to like play people against each other. Oh, whoops, where did that come from? Oh no, I've built my entire life and career on playing people against each other. Good thing I'm a meditator, because my nervous system can handle the ability to self-reflect. All of the evil shenanigans happening out there that you want to save the world from, you are doing, my friends. I'm getting all you-y. Me too. But I'm a good person. No, really, I am a good person. Like I actually am a good person. So how is it that I am doing this? To be in the dilemma is to finally have the opportunity to be in not knowing. And then there's like nothing you can do but just sit. Because you just uncovered a whole layer of shenanigans and garbage that your self-concept doesn't like. But something deeper in you knows, oh, I have to actually examine this. And now we've become humble. And now we're reading sutra books again. when what we should be doing is meditating. And now we're looking to actually understand this existential crisis of hell that we are stuck in. But I will tell you, so this might be the point where you're like, I need to quit everything I'm doing. I'm such a jerk. Everything's been motivated by power and money and fame. Oh my God. Well, maybe you can quit it. Maybe you need it to pay your bills. You're going to be in a struggle. But in being with that struggle, the friction of trying to rip different entangled strings apart, a new type of fire is being born in you. A new type of compassion is starting to perhaps a new need for Sangha. So Sangha, please love the people you're with. Love them. And not all of us have Sangha. Human Sangha. The real Sangha is all the dead people. And there will come a point now, having gone through this dilemma, where you realize it's hopeless. And you surrender to that. Somewhere along the way, in that mess, entanglement, or a little bit after, something inside of you will say, but I have to do something. I actually have to do something. Because there's so much terribleness happening out there. But you see it now in a different light. And that gives you a power that you never had access to before. The power of really doing something for something bigger than yourself. Because you actually know yourself, or a glimpse of it for the first time. So I would suggest the possibility that it's at this point that your Dharma practice actually starts. Because everything I just went through here, we haven't even like talked about having like an insight. Or one of the insights. So we'll go for questions in a second, or discussion, or what came up for you. But I think it's really important, if you can, go do a Vipassana retreat and learn to notice a thought is a thought. An emotion is actually a sensation. And that narratives arise. And that you either lean towards, as my mother says, or you lean away. And really get to know the nature of your own mind, because it will help you to love people much more fiercely and much more deeply and much more humbly. Maybe we'll chat a little bit, and I do have an exercise that we can do. But I kind of unloaded a lot on you all. But you seem to be with me. You seem to be totally with me.
Is this question?
Basically, it's the dilemma of being alive. Yep.
We have one question from Chris Dunka, who asks, how do I avoid the trap? Oh, it says my internet connection's shaky, but how do I avoid the trap of spiritual narcissism that I see in others as I develop my own practice?
Oh, honey, you're going to be a spiritual narcissist. Accept it. Accept it. You think you're not going to do that? You got another one coming.
Can I get a follow-up? So I guess I kind of just want to reframe it from sort of, yeah, it's a kind of a ridiculous proposition in which there's plenty of ways you can see yourself as a narcissist. Like, I'm doing this for me, or I'm not the narcissist, they are the narcissist. So I know that the proposition itself is ridiculous. So I'd probably want to switch to something more towards rightful action, like to actually try to, convince yourself to do a certain action, as opposed to just meditating on the top of the mountain, like what it means to get off the mountain and act in the world. And my sort of proposition is like the great yes, it's putting a flag on the ground, that with the extra awareness behind that. So yeah, what does it mean to take action?
Can you ask your question again?
Yeah, it's what does it really mean to take action in the world with the extra awareness of going through that spiritual journey?
Mm. You have to do your best to do what you have assessed is a good thing to do. And go do it. And as you're doing it, simply have the mind that watches all of the quirky shenanigans of your humanity that appear. And love it, and love yourself. And then just ask myself, oh, okay, do I need to shift a little bit in how I'm showing up, or do I just simply keep going and just keep observing? But I guess my approach maybe is a little bit intense. I sometimes like to create situations of contradiction so that you end up forced against yourself, unable to reconcile what's right and what's wrong. I have a disposition towards that type of learning or passing on. So I'm sort of setting you up to end up in a dilemma by what I just said.
Do you place a strong emphasis on renouncing the fruits of practice as you continue practice, or how do you go about assessing that and successfully doing that? You read a lot about that in the texts, and the way it actually shows up in life seems, I haven't read directly manuals for doing that successfully, or I just haven't been as adept at doing that in my own life. I'd love to know how it shows up in yours.
So now I'm in that dilemma of like, oh God, people are asking me what I think, and that's going to influence you and impact you on the choices you make, which is part of the dilemma. I would say how I've done it is I go, am I capable of basking? Am I capable of renouncing? Maybe it's good to renounce first and then go back and bask later. I don't know. But what can happen is we can end up fixated on denying our fruits rather than fixated on continuing our practice deeper. So it's about keep practicing. Learn what you've learned and also be open to a deeper learning. Could I give an example? Who asks that? Jonas. Well, I might need you to edit this part out, Aaron. It's a little bit weird. You're putting me on the spot. Let's just say someone develops really great dream work capacities or siddha capacities. That's a fruit of practice, but it's not what you're here for. You can get pulled in to Well, you actually have to be real with yourself. Is that what you're here for? Are you actually here for the Siddha powers? If so, well, then embrace those powers. And then you might, learn tough lessons in doing that. But what can happen is we want validation of that we're getting somewhere. And then rather than actually recognizing the fruits of our practice and let that be our validation, we start wanting our teacher or other people to validate us because of the fruit that we just got. And then we get entangled in that instead of going, oh, but apparently there's something more. Let me keep practicing.
I have another question this time from Leah. She says that something that came up for me was the idea that you expressed that judgment is sort of against compassionate action. How can we grapple with this idea when confronted with like gross violations of human rights or sort of very intense systemic injustice? There's this inclination to judge and to react vehemently against things that seem just evil. So how will this impact our potential for compassionate action?
Glad you asked this question. So I'll tell you my grappling with this. Can you actually be with what is in all of the injustice that's in front of you? When we're sitting meditation and doing kind of like the fierce vipassana, cut, 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 or watch, 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 we're developing a very strong nervous system, a nervous system that's able to actually handle anything that's arising in front of you. And from that place, you're able to see more clearly what your next action is, rather than reactively out of your own inability to handle it. So what we don't realize is there's an immense amount of injustice taking place, but we are getting pulled in to the cacophony by our own pain. And we're just adding to the chaos, even though it's very well intended. And so in the training of the mind, which is also training of the body, if you can observe without trying to interfere, you develop a mind that actually watches your reactions and the chain that is built up to those reactions, which means you now have power for the first time to actually make a conscious choice rather than a reactive choice, which means you have a deeper capacity for loving compassion. that isn't just your own suffering spewing out against the suffering of the world. Does that, am I pointing to where you're going with this, Leah?
Yes, but maybe if you could further elaborate on how to get there.
How to get there, to which piece?
How to get beyond the reactive, how to move beyond the impulse, to have that reactive response.
Practice meditation. And then I like Vipassana. Learn how to note and name what is happening in your system. The more you can note and name what's happening in your system, observe, not absorb, great. Once you can note what's happening in your system through meditation, through practice, which might mean go to a monastery, even for 7 days or 10 days, right? And really commit to this. Really commit to dealing with all of the unfair things that you're seeing, because you need to get beyond what's unfair into you need to get deeper than your emotions and your opinions. You have to get deeper than that. So I suppose, Leah, I would just say, go find a teacher, go sit sesshin, and practice. The more that you do that, the more, quote unquote, some of these impulses start to burn away or disappear naturally. That takes a long time, though. And that's that drive. That's that drive right there. Go practice. You want to go save the world? Go practice. You don't get accepted to the monastic academy? Go somewhere else. And really get to know the nature of the mind, of your mind, of everyone's mind, of the entire construction of all of this. Like, get that for yourself, so that you can come back to me and be like, you know, you didn't do a very good job explaining that one thing, because I have been working on this. Know it for yourself. It will make you very strong. It will make you very unbreakable, because you know how to die into every single moment and be reborn, fiercer and stronger and lovinger and softer and sweeter.
I have a question. How does like interpersonal work, circling, nonviolent communication, like how do you see that fitting into this thing? Is it important?
Don't confuse interpersonal work with Dharma. Don't confuse emotional processing with understanding the nature of the mind. You need to be able to see through. You need to be able to sit through it all. You need to be able to mop and sweep and cut carrots through anything that's happening in your system. And then we can do emotional clearing to help you just kind of like clear some of the garbage so that you have the ability to withstand more and keep that fierceness. And then the interpersonal stuff, there's kind of two aspects to it. There's your ability to become more refined, like living in the God realms. The interpersonal work kind of gives you a form to the heartfelt impulse that you have. Sometimes we want to be helpful, but we actually don't, it's never been modeled to us how to be. So these sentence stems and these ways of speaking give us a form for the heart. They also, what's the word? They can help us disarm ourselves by subjecting ourselves to certain sentence stems, communication practices. You learn how to disarm your own tendency to hurt, which gives you the opportunity to witness and see. So those are all really, really good. Those are important pieces of interpersonal practices. But then the other piece of it is circling in my world can be kind of like my dad and I work together. I run a circling and emotional clearing thing and blah, 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 blah. And some of the people that he was working with came through my little 7-week intensive because I was trying to train facilitators, so I didn't have to do everything by myself. And he was like, you just accelerated their growth like 20 years. These little false containers, they're kind of designed to bring awareness, to bring collision, to bring impact. And then it forces you to have to kind of work with it. So that's why, like, living in a monastery, any monastery, there's all these interpersonal things that are happening, right? And so it's like stones bumping up against each other, polishing one another. The beauty is that these days we have more tools for that polishing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be quite as abrupt as maybe it has been historically in some traditions.
Aaron's question brought this up for me, and so I'm in college and I do a lot of Dharma organizing on my campus, and I noticed that, like, whenever people are promoting an event, it's like, oh, like, take care of yourself, like, take care of your mental health, like whenever people promote some kind of mindfulness event. And I have this sense, or that doesn't quite resonate with me, and I have this sense they're kind of two separate tracks of development, but I'm not able to really, like, make that case in my own words yet, and I'm wondering what you think about that.
I think that one of the powerful aspects of practice is this emergent of self-love without condition. And what's happened, in my observation, opinion, and guessing, is that some of these very profound realizations of the Dharma have been kind of grabbed by people who haven't truly had that realization. And then it gets used. It's like they take the big insight and they just make it a lowercase insight, and then they start marketing it because it sounds really good. So real, in my opinion and experience, real self-love comes from loving others, serving others, and facing all of the parts of yourselves that doesn't want to do that. And the Eightfold Path is a beautiful, 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 beautiful path to self-love. Now, there's a bit of an allergy that's happening in our generation. We went from, and this is the self-love thing, I think very much came as a marketing bit towards women, where we went from being like, sacrifice everything, be a good Christian mom, be a good Christian girl, sacrifice, 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 to you're hurting yourself, right? Your like attempt to be loving is just you being obsessed with being perfect in how you're serving others. So this compassionate, like, love yourself, it's okay, like do something for you, slowly got twisted into like bubble baths and self-love and take care of yourself first, so on and so forth. It is marketing. But there was one more piece there. And it's a genuine point of growth. Our society, our culture is going through a new wave, and it does have to learn how to integrate self and collective. It's not just completely sacrifice self for collective, but in attempting to bring self into the picture, we've completely forgotten the collective. There's one little thing that keeps popping up that feels so important, but I keep losing it. Yeah, so in this bizarre selfing thing that's happened, we've really lost the beauty of and the empoweringness of taking care of other people. Like, yeah, so I'll just, I wish I had more to say on that. I keep losing it, but it's very toxic, this self-orientation thing, which started off as an accommodating of something that was lost to our previous generation, but we've taken it too far, and now we've lost the joy of service. It's not in our culture anymore. And so finding these opportunities to bring service back is so nourishing. People are like, wow, I can't believe how good I feel. And it taps you into infinite love. Being in constant service to someone else for even years before you actually go think about yourself, it can actually tap you into a source that is just inexplicable. It's powerful. It really goes deeper than your ups and downs. You're able to draw upon something beautiful.
Thank you.
Everyone just write down or take note for yourself. What's some quality that you're seeing that's terrible in the world right now? Lying, jealousy, sneakiness, avoidance, judgment. And just pick one of them and lovingly dance and give yourself a gold star every time you notice that you're doing that one thing. Just pick one. It'll be too devastating when you realize how terrible you are. Just joking. How terrible I am. But I say, like, do it with some humor. Give yourself a gold star. Holy shit, look at what I'm doing. Oh my God. And play with that. I love grabbing these little things and just trying it on for a week, trying it on for a month. I'm personally working on my tyranny right now. I can get so intense about looking at yourself. Look at yourself. Thanks.
We might have time for one more quick question, and then we can wrap it up.
Hélène?
I posted a question in the chat regarding service. How do we identify what service is, given the relativity of self-other definitions? Maybe more specifically, I found that with increased contemplative practice, the boundaries between self and other have just acquired such a relative dimension. Self and other constantly fluctuates. And so service becomes kind of slippery to define and to understand what service means when self and other transcends or sometimes becomes mixed between bodies, between concepts, ideas, objects outside and ideas inside, etc.
Just keep going. Sounds like you're on track to me. I can't find where the dilemma is in your question.
Didn't feel like there was a dilemma. Yeah.
You didn't, or you did?
I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, service. Oh, you're echoing. Things evolved, they shift. Don't worry about it if you're losing sense of self and other. One thing before you say something, Erin. Everyone, please review in your mind things that I've said where on some level you were like, I kind of already knew that. And just acknowledge that. Something in you knows. Okay? And that will keep you capable of being humbled as things go on.
All right. This is wonderful. Yeah, really great conversation. So yeah, I just have a couple things to say. I said most of it at the beginning, but the only other piece that I always want to mention is that Dharma Gates is a nonprofit organization. We're supported by grants and donations. All of our events, at least all of our Zoom events, are free, and that's partially because we get donations from other sources. So we just encourage you to keep this project in mind as you go forward. If you are a person with resources, to consider contributing. And if you become a person with resources in a few years, if you're in college or you're thinking about what you're going to be doing, just keep us in mind. Encourage you to contribute in accordance to what you think this project is worth for the world, and to do that with everything. And yeah, you're all on the newsletter. We have another event in January, and we'll have a whole nother spring practice series coming up next spring. So thanks for coming, and hope to see you at future events. Oh, and I'll also hang out for maybe 5 to 10 minutes afterward. Anybody else is welcome to hang out if you have questions about Dharma Gates or anything else that came up during the session. I'll be around for a minute.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Dharma Gates. Bye-bye.
Nobody's leaving. I'm curious if there's anything, any sort of residue in the room, anything that still feels really alive in people's systems that you want to share.
Jay was asking about how to access the recording. I know there's a YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're trying to get the YouTube channel live. It's very minimal, and I need to figure out how to we took a couple of the videos down, but we'll probably edit them and put them back up. So I'll try to get this one online within a week or so. Can definitely rewatch it.
So something that came up, Erin, in her response
Mm-hmm.
was regarding session retreat.
Yeah.
Could you maybe give a brief introduction now to what is Zen retreat, what happens, how is it, and voila.
So my sense is that she wasn't particularly, sesshin is just one form of a kind of week-long intensive retreat that's what they call it in Zen, but I think she was basically just saying go meditate a lot. And in particular, there is a value to the retreat setting that's very difficult to emulate, or I've heard this saying that one retreat is like 3 years of daily practice, and there's something to it where you can just get this momentum in your nervous system. You're silent for a week and you meditate basically all day, every day. And that lets, you just get to dive really deep into what's there, what's all the material that's there that you usually don't feel, you usually don't have access to when you're walking around in the world. You sort of stay at this surface level of the mind, and silent retreat is just a time to just dive, and often you can learn a lot very quickly about how you're constructing your world and what kinds of patterns are at play in your daily life. And to some extent that uncovering that becomes a permanent change, but to some extent it also just you come back up from retreat and you learn oh, that's how crazy I am. I'm fabricating reality in all of these different ways that I didn't really know. And that can be humbling in itself. So I think that was kind of what she was pointing to there. Is it's very valuable to go see how crazy we are.
Thanks so much, Aaron. It's my second time tuning in. I'm calling in from Amsterdam, and I'm curious to understand if there's anybody or a community you know of locally in the European context to continue this practice or to start, actually.
Yeah, with meditation in particular. I could look around, I would know how to find the right people, but I don't off the top of my head know of the communities in Amsterdam, but I'd be happy to follow up and ask around and let you know what I what I discover on that front.
That'll be nice. Shall I send you an email or?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just email me and I'll be happy to give it a little bit of research. That'll be fun if we start having a European cohort, but so far it's
That'd be awesome.
mostly US. Mhm.
Where are you in the world? You seem like, I don't know why, I just like, your energy gives me like something really north.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Like you're like in the woods, or not in the woods, but like you're somewhere like you're somewhere north where it's cold.
Show you the like snowy mountains outside. Would that help? I'm in northern Vermont. We're like 30 minutes away from the border of Canada, so you're dead on. It's like the Arctic up here. It's real cold. Leah asked a question in the chat whether I know places that offer retreats, and so right now with COVID, there's a number of monasteries in the U.S. of centers where you can go, but only for a minimum commitment of like 6 weeks. So nowhere. The monastic academy has been a little bit more loose, and you can visit here with some. Depends where you're coming from, and it depends on quarantine stuff. But Maple is the easiest place to visit right now. But then there's a number of other centers that you can go for residency, but not for shorter retreats. So you can go like Zen Mountain Monastery in upstate New York you can go sit sesshin there, and you'd have to be there for 6 weeks, but I'd highly recommend it. if that's an opportunity for you, then it's not a bad life decision at all.
I would just add that the Vipassana Center in Shelburne, Mass is still open, and they're just doing courses that are socially distanced. And I'm sitting a 10-day course there in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I had no idea. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll drop a link to them in the chat. You have to sign up like a couple months in advance, and they go like concert tickets because there are so few seats, but they've been running retreats for the last 6 months.
I mean, you can also always drop into like, there's a lot of different meditation communities that are having online retreats now. They're a little weird, like to sit a retreat in your house, but you can follow along and do the Dharma talks and meet with teachers, and it's very, very possible. So that's another, if you really are just like, I want to check out this retreat thing now, and I don't have anything to do, you could just drop in on one of the different communities that are offering online stuff, and they get a flavor for it. And when things open back up again, there's a lot of places you could probably go next summer if you wanted to do shorter stuff. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question that was on my mind for most of the talk, and I was kind of hesitating to ask it. I'm not sure why, but maybe that was for the better, because I feel like it might be. I'm interested to kind of hear all your thoughts on this as kind of fellow young folks who are interested in this sort of area. And the question is basically, I guess the contemplative process that Alexandra was outlining for us, which she described as kind of like the precursor or the groundwork for real Dharma practice. So kind of all of the noticing and emotional clearing and just kind of becoming more conscious and aware of your own patterns and predilections and all this stuff like that. I find that I'm trying to do a lot of that without any sort of guidance or without any sort of like tradition or authority, basically just finding lots of justifications and excuses for not like sitting on a mat or kind of like being in a structured container for doing this sort of thing. Mm. So I guess I'm just wondering if any of you have thoughts about like the potentials for self-deception, kind of taking that approach, or if there's a place for it, or just how to be careful and cautious about doing that, or just I'll kind of stop there. But
I think I can answer that. Mostly because I find myself doing a bunch of like drop-in spiritual activities, but where I found was most useful is like trying to find like a community of other sort of experienced practitioners that can like tell you like what their experience is like, what your so like what again, what are the blind spots you may face.
Mm. Yeah, I did that, Jay, for several years, like just way too serious, like lay practice, where and it's a little bit. I mean, I'd say there's, you know, if you're sitting like if you're getting close to 2 hours a day or something like that, if you're in like more than an hour a day, then I definitely think it's good to have a teacher around. If you're doing if you're reading Buddhist books and you're sitting 40 minutes or an hour a day, like you're probably gonna be fine. Things might get a little bit weird, but once you get more towards the like more than that, then I definitely like is good. It's good to have a teacher. Also, there's some use in like the best feedback that you will get about whether you're like getting off track with practice is reality. Like, is if you start just being weird or disjointed from other people, or you start getting negative feedback for how you're showing up in the world, like there's signs that your practice is off. And if things are going along pretty smoothly for you, then you're probably it's all good. But I think what teachers in like a stronger community can really do is just like give you corrections when if you start getting weird. They'll be like, maybe you should change your technique, or like and so it can be really valued to be mirrored in that way. Like having a therapist or something like that serves the same function of just like effectively mirroring you to help keep you calibrated and like adjusted with what other people, like how other people function in the world. So basically, make sure you get a lot of social mirroring. Like make sure you're spending time with people and getting like those hits of feedback that help you stay calibrated is the best remedy. Like don't don't go like try to do a long solitary retreat by yourself, self-directed. It's really good to have that kind of friction of life. It's also another great thing about like if you go do community service, or this is kind of the role of like direct action work, or like being engaged with other humans when you're practicing a lot, can help you see the areas that your practice is weak. Like you get triggered in certain ways and you're like, okay, then I have this material to work with. So yeah, don't use your practice to shut out your life if you're a lay person, like or if you're in a monastery, but it's even more dangerous if you don't have a teacher. That would be what I would say. And like having a teacher doesn't need to be you could just find someone you can work with on Zoom every month and like have a check-in and just be like, this is what I'm doing, see if they have any general feedback. Like we have a couple monks that we have been working with Dharma Gates that will do interviews with people. So you could definitely just like check in with someone every now and again and make sure. They'll just probably be like, everything's good, but it might give you some ideas. See you, Jonas.
thank you for that, Aaron. A lot of sense. And what you were saying just brings to mind something that I think the rest of you who are still here might find interesting from my kind of brief time at Maple earlier this year, I recall something that Soryu, the teacher there, said, which has really stuck with me. And to paraphrase, it was the degree of your enlightenment, if you use that or a different word, is like the degree to which you're able to be a friend. So that really speaks to the idea of, like, if you think you're, advancing or making progress on some sort of a spiritual path, but you're showing up as like not able to be a friend for other people who are kind of in your community, like that's probably a sure sign that, something has gone awry. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, once again, thank you, Aaron. I'm gonna head out now, and I'll get in touch with you.
Great. Sounds good. Send me an email.
Bye.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care, Sam. Yeah. All right. See ya.